So, hey, I tried to export my Katabasis vlog so it's like one video, but for some reason my laptop is saying there's not enough storage and whatnot, and I'm guessing that's because it's an hour and 40 minutes. So, my Katabasis vlog will be in two parts. I don't think my laptop will be able to handle if I export both videos, so highly likely part 2 will be up the day after you're seeing this, and I will make sure to leave that link in the description below. I will try my best to export both, but we will see. And yeah, and I'm also gonna do my warning now. I did film a different clip, but I might as well just do it again. And right now is that I do go very heavy into spoilers, into Katabasis by R.F. Kuang. So if you've not read a book and you want to, then continue. But if you haven't read a book and you don't want to read a book, or if you haven't read a book and you don't care for spoilers, go ahead. And we learn, like, especially from this, how even through it was her fault that the professor died the way he did, with her being sleep deprived and not closing circles properly in the pentagram, that he essentially exploded. And with the fact parts of him destroyed the evidence, it erased the evidence that she was at fault, which saved her from being in a whole lot of trouble. And as well, no one knew that she was in the room, as he apparently just didn't give credit to students on his experiments. So, and we see how Peter finds her, and how he also had the same idea to try and find a professor to give that letter of recommendation. And we see how he doesn't seem like the kind of person who brags, who's an asshole and whatnot. He seems kind and generous and wants to help people. And we see how they both used the knowledge they've both gathered to work together, and we see the journey into how it is nothing that they thought it would be, and as well what they expected, with it being dim and dusty. And we see how they went into shades, and it's the shades who cannot move on, who were students of Professor Grimes, who died in this fire that was said to be structural reasons, and not because Professor Grimes was negligent of his students. Like, he just allowed them to perform their experiments while he locked himself away in his office and didn't monitor them, and one of us wanted to do his own work. So yeah, the professor is not 100% a good guy, but yeah. And we see how Alice and Peter, they try to move on. They have to wait in line to be, I guess, admitted into how, and they try to cut in line, but the other shades are like, no. And they do find a way to cheat witches to climb over the wall. And I do like how Alice doesn't want to trust Peter, but she has him trust her, as she is an experienced climber and he is afraid of heights. So she guides him along, tells him what to do to relax, and they get over that, not hurdle, but yeah, I guess over that obstacle for them. And yeah, so far they are just talking about what to do next, like, and it seems like they've decided to not cut into different levels of hell, as they don't know where it is. Like, hell isn't entirely black and white. Just because you're guilty of one sin doesn't mean you're necessarily gonna end up in that particular sin. I mean, you may end up in another sin that's similar or related to that sin. So yeah, it's a bit complicated, but I am intrigued so far. I'm on page 74, and yeah, And as well, we do learn a bit about how the magic in the world works, how it seems like it's essentially just taking a truth and twisting it to your knees, how it's really that act of lying and a belief that all woes can be suspended. So that is something I do like, that idea that you can just take the woes and do really whatever you want, as long as it makes sense. So yeah, I am really intrigued to see how they navigate through how and what obstacles they run into, and really they see more of their relationship, see more and them really. I guess I don't know, but yeah, so far on this, very much intrigued, and I am definitely liking it so far. So yeah, I think that's all for now, and I'll see you when I see you. So it's the next day, and I've just done some work and whatnot, and I'm currently trying not to fall asleep. I don't know, I've just been struggling with my energy levels, especially in the afternoon recently. I don't know why. I don't think it's jet lag, just because I'm not having trouble falling asleep, but yeah, who knows. But anyway, I did do quite a bit of reading of Katabasis last night and today, and I am on page 154. And I am definitely liking it, but I think because of my mood, I don't feel like I'm in it. I'm liking what's happening, and I can imagine it, but I think with the kind of writing it is, like, with someone of my state who's just so tired all the damn time, but I didn't want reading, so I don't know, but so far I'm definitely enjoying it, and really I'm liking learning about the world magic system. R. Kwong, she puts in not footnotes, but there's kind of a couple pages where it'll be italicized. It will just give information about the magic, about the world, about death, how the Buddhists and whatnot, like, they got it right as death is like two sides of one coin, and all of that information is really interesting, and the ideas she's exploring is also really fascinating. And the thought of, like, these two people who are exhausted, overworked, underpaid graduate students happen to do this for them. Recommendation that they're like, they both, I don't know, they both are acknowledging they're just exhausted in something. And one thing I'm really liking with Peter is he's trying to be very courteous, I guess, with Alice. My word. Every other name was came in, sorry, but he wants her to feel comfortable. They had to sleep next to each other, as she had like a weighted blanket or heated blanket, and it's quite cold in her one, surprisingly. And they wake up, and he's in a certain state, and you can imagine what that state is, especially with something involving down there. I don't want to say it in case you do in case I get in trouble, but yeah, he feels like he made her uncomfortable, and he is making a bigger deal out of it, and she's just like, oh my god, Peter, shut up. I know this is something you cannot control. It's just, he just feels bad that he just cannot control his body, and he's digging himself into it. So I don't know how that's just hilarious to read, and she just wants him to let it go, but he can't, and I don't know if they were more than friends, as they have mentioned they've fallen asleep together, but I'm not sure if that it, as they've also mentioned, they've fallen asleep in a laboratory, so, but yeah. And I'm also liking how they don't have the option to go back, as their paths are being erased behind them. They literally just don't have a choice. It's either they succeed or else they risk death. And I'm also liking how we see how all of the literature they've compound has come true at the same time, as Harrius is ones that heard against them, like how he uses what one knows against them. With Dante seeing artists, philosophers, and politicians, and as singles of past warriors, it's using that what you hate the most, or not fear the most, but yeah, it uses people or things from your life against you, and they get to the levels of how when they see it resembles a university campus. It reminds them of Cambridge, and we see how they go into the first level, which is pride, and where all the shades are stuck there until they can give a satisfying definition of what goodness means, and that whole thing was like stressed out students during exam season, holed up in a library, giving dirty looks, shushing people who are making noise, and there's even someone who passes out because they were crying so much because they got the answer wrong, or the entities who decide if they weren't satisfied with that answer, so, and they've been trying, they don't know like what the right answer is or what answer will be good enough, and Alice, she comes to the conclusion that Grimes isn't there, as he might have been arrogant, but he was not prideful. He hated Peacock, and really being in this hated people giving attention to him about his work. And they get out of there and meet up with a Leaf, where you pause and use memories you made in life before meeting Paul to drink her potion and move on to your next life. And we see how Alice, she is drawn to this idea unconsciously, how it actually would solve all her problems if she could just forget them and move on to a new life, like start over. She wouldn't have to think about linguistics or magic or anything, and she tries to go towards the river when she sees Mang Po, and it seems like Mang Po is telling Alice to come. I don't know. Alice, it seems like, is having hallucinations, is seeing things that aren't there when her mind is in a relaxed state when she's not paying attention, and that's something that has intrigued me. I'm just wondering about that. And we see how Peter pulls her back and how they run into these creatures that it seems like they're made out of chalk, and they're afraid of the river leaf, as when they go into the river it will destroy them, and it seems like some creator is there and has been able to make them. And we see when Peter and Alice, when they try to use magic to cheat their way through, and with the way they use magic, you do need chalk, and when they try to do so, they see that how doesn't allow their pentagrams to hold, and to that the chalk just falls apart, so they aren't able to cheat. They do have to go forward, but somehow this creator of these creatures, they've been able to use chalk. So I'm wondering who this creator is. And we see how they get too lost, and it's like a common room, and it isn't what they thought it would be like. Shades are in their rooms, or really south with their desires, and Alice has to watch as they get off of those desires, and she becomes uncomfortable as she doesn't understand how human beings can have such desires. Like, it's not, she does mention she does know the basic stuff, but some of the things these shades desired, they're a bit extremely bit interesting. And I do like Alice does go off and mention that as graduate students, they've essentially been told to repress their desires, to really focus on their studies, to focus on bettering themselves. Like, we see how people, they just don't take care of themselves. Like, one girl, she'll fast all day and meditate when she's hungry, and other people, they who 1 miles, like to clear their mind, and do all this thinking to not like that their desires consumes them, and that all of their desires go for furthering their education. And as well, we see the effect this level has on Peter, how it almost makes him the opposite of who he is, because he becomes extremely rude to Alice, telling her to shut up, and without telling her to shut up, like he just waves his hand at her. And he seems to have this idea that she holds Grimes on a pedestal, and they are able to leave the level and they run into the creatures. And during the confrontation, Alice does fall into the river. And the thing with the river is that even when you touch it, your memories fade away, and when you cross the river, you're essentially a blank slate. And with her, she can't forget. She's unable to forget anything because she did play a role in an experiment that Grimes was doing while they were away for the summer in Italy. First it was on street animals, and then it was on her. But what he did was he performed some sort of operation on her that would allow her to forget anything. And while this might be the best thing ever for someone who's in graduate school or a university student, it means it's also a negative thing because you're literally not able to forget anything. She believes as humans we should forget stuff, and she feels her mind is being stretched too thin and she's remembering too much, and that is something I am liking, because you cannot remember everything. You shouldn't want to remember everything, but also she is someone who is of an anxious personality, and she cannot help but remember all of the awkward moments of like holding people up in line or spilling something on herself. So yeah, but that is also something interesting that I do like and wish to explore more. And yeah, so far I am liking the book. I am liking the different ideas Arfang's fun and has, and that's the different ways. Like, I'm curious to see what the next level of hell will hold, what that will be like, and what part of university or campus that will be. So yeah. But yeah, I think that's all for now, so I'll see you when I see. So it's the next day, and as you saw, I did go out today. I had to run a couple of errands, and on my way home I did go for a bit of a walk in this park that I drive by. And yeah, I went off my errands, did some more food shopping, and had to take my car to the mechanic, which nothing's wrong with it. We were just looking at it for a problem with the window is one of the cars my parents own is quite old. It's like 20 years old, so a lot of issues in currently. And the most recent one is that for some reason we will like roll down a window, and for some reason it didn't want to come right back up when we took it out last week. I don't know what it was doing, but yeah, it seems like there's no issues with it, which yeah, I decided to behave. But yeah, since I've gone home and earlier this morning before I left, I did do some work, and I did do quite a bit of reading last night and today of Katabasis Reading on page 222, and I'm definitely enjoying it a lot. I am reading it now when I don't feel so tired. I don't know why that occurs, but yeah. I do have to say I am liking Alice and Peter's friendship at the moment. Like it's this nice, and we see more of their friendship, and we learn more of their friendship. Before they journey into the novel, we see it doesn't seem like they had a big falling out. Like they were close while working on a project for Professor Grimes, a presentation for him. And when they finished up that presentation, as they didn't have any classes together, it seems like Peter just cut her out point blankly. She still wanted to maintain that friendship, and he just pretended she doesn't exist. And we see how that hurt Alice, as she thought with how close they were that friendship would continue. And I think at one point she even fell in love with him, but she had to realize, yeah, no, that he's just gonna pretend she doesn't exist. Like, he's never really been rude to her in like out there, not out there, but oh my god, what am I trying to say? There's a phrase I want to say that's like on the tip of my tongue, but like, he's never rude outright. He's just more subtly, and he does like nod his head towards her when he sees her and whatnot. But that's pretty much it. Like, it seems like he's cut out. And something I'm also liking is we see how they were kind of, oh my word, I have it in my notes, but they were made to compete against each other by rhymes, as we say. Each of her failures was cast in direct reference to Peter's success, and yeah, I mean, they are, like I said earlier in this video, I think, they are competing for fellowships and grants, and who is better, who is smarter, whose research is more interesting, I guess, to those funding it. So there is that level of competition, I think, is just almost natural when you're a graduate student in the same field. And as she didn't question it about Grimes like kind of butting their heads against each other, she thought Grimes was only being a good advisor and making her aware of her situation and that there is this competitor against her and that she needed to win. But as well, she and Peter, they were the only people that Grimes was advising, so there's like a level of understanding with one another. Like, they know how Grimes is, like, they know what he puts them through and how he torments them. But yeah, that's just, I guess, just like they understand as they see the torment like that Grimes has put him through. So yeah, they just understand each other, and that's something I do like. And this is all coming up in the sense Alice finds, but when Peter is asleep and she's keeping watch, because who knows what could be out there in hell, she sees that his notes are spilling out of his bag, and she can't help but be curious and goes through them, and she learns that he is planning to make an exchange, Grimes' soul for another soul, and he figured that it cannot be himself, that the magic won't allow that, so it has to be another soul. And Alice sees on the corner of the page that he wrote, "If Alice," and it makes her think that Peter is planning to sacrifice her to exchange her soul for Grimes and leave her in hell. And that makes her question everything, if anything between them was ever genuine, or if he was just pulling her along like she's a fool. And we see how they're on the journey to the next level when they come across a bridge made up of shades, and they meet the Reaver's girl, who is a star who fell in love with a human, which was forbidden, and they are only allowed to meet, I think it was once a year. And when he died, she tried to persuade him to stay, but he got restless. Like, he got tired of the desert, he got tired of the sun, and he went to the river Lith and moved on, and she stayed in hell. And she offers Alice and Peter an opportunity to move wherever they like to in hell, only if they succeed in her test and prove their loyalty to one another. And if they do, well, she'll build them a bridge. The test is, it seems like that there are two apples and they must choose the same apple. I don't know, it seems like they failed when Alice chooses the red apple and Peter chooses the green apple, but during the test Alice isn't able to stop thinking about their memories together, and afterwards, when she found his notes, like, she is always repeating, "My name is Alice Law. I go to Cambridge," and like her story, I guess. But it's being mixed with that and if Alice, and she cannot decide if she can trust him, which somehow it leads her to become invisible to him. And yeah, the chosen of the apple. And the Weaver Girl allows Alice to move on, and she'll keep Peter in her web. However, creatures come and attack the Weaver Girl and carry Alice away, and this boatman interferes, and he fights and defeats the creatures and takes Alice and Peter away from the Weaver Girl, who isn't happy. So, yeah, I don't know if Peter actually is doing what Alice thinks it is, because he only wrote if Alice. It's not. So she is thinking that's what he's planning, but there's no proof it's this. If Alice, something else. Like, it could have been anything else. And we see more as well. I did want to mention that Grimes, they also understand that weird stuff Grimes puts him through and the stuff he's put him through that they cannot tell anyone else. Otherwise, they would be in Grimes would be in a whole lot of trouble. As it seems like Grimes wants Peter to get him human colons, there we are, for his experiments, which Peter was apparently easily able to do by walking into a lab on campus where they keep bodies to practice surgery on and keep it this way for the students working there. Anyway, now they're head back, so. Yeah, some things that are a bit unconventional, and I do like how with the operation Alice had, it seems like it's causing her to see things that are in there, like see objects in a different way, or see objects as one thing as not what they are when she's not paying attention. And I am liking it, and I am still curious on where the world ends for them in this novel. They somehow get caught by the Lord Amma, I think it is his name. Let me just double check that one, because Lord Lama, or Amma? I don't know what to say. Or if some, because I can imagine it's simply they find Professor Grimes, and they're able to easily get out after. I'm imagining it's something more taxing, more difficult, and something to test them. I'm imagining, but yeah, so far I'm really much enjoying it, and I'm really much enjoying seeing more of Alice and Peter's relationship, and seeing how close they once were, or how close Alice thought they were, because the thing is, we are only getting Alice's POV in this novel. We never get Peter, so maybe Peter felt similar, or if he's someone who is kind to people, because for one, he needs to use them later on for like recommendations or resources, or to assist him in some way, like to get on their good side, so he can assist them, and he keeps them at arm's length when they're not useful for him. So yeah, I'm very much curious on his mindset and what he's thinking, because it seems like in her eyes that she never really truly knew him, that she only saw a version of him that he showed her, that she doesn't know who Peter is as a whole picture. She only knows a portion of him, and that is something else I'm also liking quite a lot. So yeah, just seeing the, I guess, complexities of the relationship, and really I don't know, like how Alice cares about him but doesn't want to, I guess. I don't know, I'm mumbling at this point, I think. So yeah, I think that's all for now. So it's the next day, and as you saw, I did go out today. I just went for a walk in the park near me and wanted us to get out of the house. As this morning I did do quite a bit of work, and yeah. And besides that, I did do quite a bit of reading. I'm on page 310 of Katabasis, and again, I'm definitely enjoying it as we are getting some tension between Peter and Alice, as Alice has informed Peter of what she thinks is his plans, and he got quite upset with her, and he's quite angry with her, and it's like a theory she's never seen before. But I'm getting ahead of myself. But let me backtrack. But we learned that the boatman who rescued them from the Weaver Girl, she is actually a woman named Elspeth, who Alice knows of, as she learned 10 years before she came into Cambridge that one morning, while the rowing team was practicing, they came upon a woman drowned in the river, and there were no signs of foul play of any sort, and it was concluded that the woman committed suicide. And the woman was, Elspeth, and all evidence of her attending Cambridge was erased, and she had been another advisee of crimes. And Elspeth is very, when we first meet her, she's quite an eccentric character. I would say she's extremely talkative, which kind of makes sense that it's always just been her with her boat alone for who knows how long. And we see how she differs from Alice in her mindset when it comes to academia, as it seems Elspeth committed suicide because she didn't think she was achieving enough in academia, that she wasn't good enough, because in her eyes academia is only about getting the recognition and publishing papers and getting these awards and whatnot. So we see how Alice, she does differ from them. We learn that for Alice it's more about the high that you get from learning and finding the literature. You need to support your evidence, not support your evidence, oh my god, to support your research. It's about getting into deep talks about one of them subjects and arguing your viewpoints and all of those things. With her being happy and with her other cohorts in a pub, just arguing about one of them shit while they're drawing this. And I kind of get that. Kind of just talking about deep subjects, and well, not deep subjects, but backing your claims up with evidence or explaining your viewpoint. I do understand that. And something else in this book I like is, while on the book, Alice sees artifacts, random objects that have been forgotten about, or they've been lost from people misplaced them, or they moved house, or they abandoned them, and somehow these objects have ended up in hell. And it's also not just random objects, it's also animals who've been abandoned. And that does break my heart. That is interesting. It's like, where do those objects you've misplaced go? And Elspeth does teach them that there is a way to use the chalk, but it involves blood, and she does take them through greed and wrath, and is starting to look less like a university and more, I guess, what you expect hell to look like. Because with greed, it was the land a university bought but never put buildings in an area that's always under construction but never arises, sort of thing. And then we just this nothing, and I like it because it shows that these shades, they're becoming less and less, humanly forgotten who they are, and it is starting to feel abandoned and depicted. There's a word I want to say, but it's like, and there is something, Elspeth, she mentions this couple, the Crepikes, who they were famous for unconventional experiments, so unconventional that the researchers just didn't take them seriously, and as well because they found their power showed off, they weren't taken seriously, and because they showed off their powers to people or showed off the magic to people, they lost the funding, they lost jobs, and they wanted to perform an experiment, and they invited these researchers to come and watch, but these researchers, they didn't take them seriously. And the experiment was that they were going to go to hell and back, and in front of an audience they killed themselves. They never made it back to Earth, and they've been trying to, but they've been in hell. They've been doing experiments on shades, and other humans, they have gone down to hell, but they've never come back to tell their story because of this couple torturing them to learn how the true contradiction, to learn the ways to get back to Earth. And that's something that intrigues me, because Alice and Peter, they've not really faced many true obstacles, it seems so far. It's just been quite easy, I guess, for them on their journey. Like, yeah, they faced their hurdle here and there, but nothing too bad, I guess. And I'm just curious if they do encounter this couple who have become less and less human, as they've been erasing parts of themselves by drinking from the river Liv and only keeping the parts of themselves that they need to do their experiments. And yeah, I'm just intrigued what would happen if they encounter this couple, and that's a huge obstacle. Because later on they do kind of face the couple in the sense they get trapped in a pentagon they drew that prevents the staircase from taking Alice and Peter back up to the surface after they fall through a hole, and we see how Alice and Peter, they have to figure their way out of that. So yeah, I am reason. We see as well with Elspeth, they tried to trick her at one point, and she's like, "Are you two idiots? I've been here longer than you. I know what this pentagram that you're trying to trick me with is about." And she gets the truth out of them that they're looking for Grimes, who she does not like, and she kicks them off the boat. So yeah, and we see how they keep going wrong. I knew, before I mention the next thing, I do have to say we see how Peter, he cannot understand how Alice can think he can sacrifice her, and he does get very upset because he thinks she doesn't trust him, that he just went there to abandon her, and this angers him, and this also gets in the way of their partnership. And after they get kicked off the boat, because he thinks there's no more trust between them, because he's upset with her, he tries to go his own way, and she doesn't want that. And yeah, I'm hoping for a conversation where they talk things through, and they encounter, what was it, like creatures again, or shades, and Peter loses his pack, and half of Alice is gone and soaked, and he just starts to lose hope, honestly. Like, we see how they were so hopeful, knowing, can we actually do this? Like, we've lost supplies, we have like 3 days worth of stuff, like, can we do it? And he's like, they're running extremely low, and he wants to leave, and he prefers having half his lifetime than dying. He would rather prefer being a laughing stock than being normal. And we see, and continue on, and we see how he learns about what Alice and how she killed the professor. And I'm saying killed because it was an accident, or so she said, but I don't know. After she said that she killed him, it goes into the next chapter, and it's about like how the novel goes into the sexism that appears in academia, which is a true thing, I mean, and especially at Cambridge, and what Alice and others in her cohort had to do to survive. So no matter what, they couldn't get away from the sexism, and we learn that Grimes was someone who he couldn't keep his hands to himself, as to say, and Alice for some reason wanted to see if she could get to him by a look in his type, which, as she described, is a ballerina with daddy issues. Like, she tied her hair up in a bun to look the part, and she was like, for them, I don't know. But she wasn't really successful in that, or I don't know what she was hoping for, honestly, with that. Like, she, I guess, enjoyed walking the line between being successful enough to not caring because it gave her a thrill. Like, she enjoyed it, as he did have a reputation for taking pretty girls to conferences and showing them off. She felt powerful in that she was different from other women. That she was just a magician who cared about her work. That's how others saw her. That's how Professor Grimes saw her. And she had seen one of his affairs, and because of her memory, that memory of that encounter started to get mixed up with something that actually happened to her, and she was getting not confused, but she was actually believing that she was sitting with him. And the part I got up to was one night after a prize watch show thing out. They were in his office when he tried to make advances towards her, and he did cup her face in one on them. I don't know. And she's disgusted by this, and disgusted by his features, disgusted by him, as now she held the professor like a god level, I think, and now that he's doing what he's doing, it's like he's so human, it's disgusting, like he's so imperfect, and so ugly, and she resents that, and yeah, that's where I got up to, so yeah, I'm curious on what happens next, because yeah, I did accidentally take a glimpse at the next page, and it seems like Peter does walk in on whatever's going on, so I'm curious on what he will think, but yeah. So far I'm definitely liking the different ideas are flowing in here about hell, about academia, and all that. And one idea she threw in here that I particularly like is about the river live, and it's like it's on page 269, and it's the life is all the memories that ever were. The life is infinite. The life is all the colors on a palette mixed into black. The life doesn't erase, it only absorbs, and Ausbiff tells this to Alice as one of Ausbiff's pastimes is to look into the river and see. Is that a river or lake? I don't know. And see the memories of the souls who've come in there and the souls who've been erased, or not erased, but moved on in all of their memories. Watching a show or something, and that's something I do find interesting, that idea. And I am like an Alice's viewpoint on academia, how you can get a high from learning something new, how it excites you and makes you think, oh, I got the answer, or oh yeah, this idea was good. I don't know, I like that a lot. So yeah, I'm very much intrigued to see what comes next. I don't know why I keep saying that, as I am continuing reading this book. So of course I'm intrigued, but yeah. And yeah, I'm just, I don't know, intrigued to see what happens next, I guess, or what level they find Professor Grimes in. So yeah, I think that's all for now. So that's really all for my thoughts. And yeah, that's the end of the video. So if you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. Tell me if you've read Katabasis, what you thought of it. And yeah, and if you want to, please subscribe to this channel. If you want to follow me on any social media, all those things are in the down bar below. I'll see you guys next time I post a video.